but the camera may be coming back. So good morning, everybody. It's June
Right as we get
7th.
to go live.
Yeah, of course.
Good
June
morning.
7th, 2024. Good morning. It's the Dev Talk Show. My co-host Rich Ross is in a picturesque setting, and
Maybe that's the issue. I don't know.
I'm here in my office with. There's a dog somewhere. He was perched in the producer seat, but I don't know if he knows when we go live. I don't know. He got up and moved, and now he is like directly behind. Oh, there he goes.
That's funny.
He's, sneaking off stage there, maybe. I don't know. Hard to say.
Let's try that.
So welcome, everybody. We are coming up on the end of the week again. And, here's another thing that I thought about is we're coming up on the midway point of the year.
Okay.
Which is a little nuts. So that means, we've gotten through events like Build that had a lot of content to work through, and not just, Build. There's no doubt that Build had a huge focus on AI, generative AI, how you can use it in your apps and how it's going to be used in apps moving forward.
Mhm.
That was definitely a big focus. But at the same time, I thought that there was actually a fair, and I'm sorry, I'm just double checking that we're live on all the platforms because I'm doing exactly what you're not supposed to be doing, looking away from the camera, right? You're supposed to, I'm no actor, by the way, but I'm supposed to look right into the camera. So,
but you're doing it so well that I had no idea that was what you were doing. So it's all good.
Yeah. I knew somebody who was getting into acting and was an extra in some things, and then maybe had some roles too, and is an acquaintance of mine, and we were in a wedding together. This was a long time ago, and the videographer wanted each of us to make to just have a short clip,
Okay.
and he went last. And what was interesting is when he went last, he came off muttering, saying like, I don't know what I should know better. I know better. And yet I couldn't look directly into the camera. And I said, like, really? He said, because all of us did the same thing. All of us immediately, when the videographer said go, you immediately just kind of look away and you kind of look around, like you just do it. And he had said, like, I know better. Look right into the camera. And he said, I still did it anyway. So
that's funny.
Interesting. Like he wasn't in his job situation. So maybe other parts of your instinct take over. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, there's definitely a persona that comes up when you're on the stage or presenting in front of folks.
So just to set clear expectations for people watching the show, I usually like to do this even earlier. But if you're watching this show and you want to know what's going on, we are going to keep working with .NET Aspire on the HelloDallE app. Last time we had started it out and gotten the app host in and the service defaults project in. And I think by building it the way we did, it became clear what those two projects do. It's not that it's not clear in the demos, but then you do it yourself and you go, oh, I see. The app host has to take a dependency on the apps in your project or the things in your project, and the service defaults, they have to take a dependency on that so the service defaults can get injected. Okay.
I'll kind of make sense.
There's a lot of other interesting things I can't wait to look through, but there are a lot of other great topics that I think we would love to hear from you. What is it that you want to see right away? .NET 9, as soon as .NET 9, I think, gets to where the previews have some interesting, closer to completeness, closer to completeness, is that, but also, maybe an interesting feature to actually look at, and it doesn't have to work perfectly. Then we will probably do what we did last year, where you say, let's look at the new templates. What is it like to build in here?
Yeah.
And then C# 13, one or two really interesting features in there that I think would be really, really fun to look at. One of them is not, I don't think, in a release build yet. And when that one gets in a release build, which has to do with the extension, I don't know if they're calling it extension types. I really don't know. But there's the extension keyword, and when that comes in, then it's like, okay, now let's take a look. So
Okay. And in addition to all those things that are happening on the language side, I think there's some. We kind of thought maybe looking at some of the things we can do with AI as well. We played around a little bit with the HelloDallE app, but we've got some presentations coming up in the end of June or the end of July.
So July, Philly.net is having an open AI night. Well, specifically the .NET facing features.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. I think I don't know that it's necessarily .NET focused, but it's the Azure AI Studio piece. Did I get that name right? And then basically generative AI in your applications. So that's coming up in July. So there'll be a lot of material coming out of that too. But
so I mean, the cool part of that is we've got some interesting things that we could look at, some things that we might want to see. So let us know what interests you. Give us a comment. Let us know. Hit us on Twitter, X, what have you.
We've had some great comments recently. It's unfortunate that they weren't posted in YouTube, but I was looking at some of the chat messages in the last episode, and one of them had mentioned somebody having trouble with interactive auto, but I really apologize if I just didn't read. I went back and I read it again because I could look at the replay, look at the chat message, and I felt it was generic. It was generic to the point of, hey, I'm having trouble with interactive auto, and I kind of thought like, yeah, I've had trouble with interactive. I don't know what this specific issue was, but I do think that the interactive auto mode presents a unique challenge that I know when I first fired it up, I spent a lot of time wondering, why is it crashing? What's going on? And it's one of those things is like, once you see it, then you kind of can't unsee it anymore. And it's one of those unfortunate things in computer computer programming. Often monads are thrown in this lot, that once you understand the concept, then you immediately lose the ability to explain it to anybody else. And so I feel like with the interactive auto mode, once you start to get it, you lose the empathy for why it was confusing in the first place. But it is, because the fact of the matter is, whether your component is running in WebAssembly or running in interactive server affects where the code is running, and therefore expectations that your code can have about what's available, including pieces of the .NET platform or some service. Is the service running on your client? Is it even the same instance of the service? Because perhaps last page reload, it was interactive server. This page reload, it's interactive auto. And I feel like what it does is it, at least for me, is it gets you to abstract your application into services more and code running in the client less. And that's weird because we're in Blazor. So I thought the whole point was code running. But this is interactive auto, where you're trying to let Blazor, if you have put a stake in the ground and said, I'm WebAssembly, I'm interactive server, then your brain doesn't have to do those gyrations. You know where your code's running. And it's funny because, and this makes it sound like I'm Chris, do you hate interactive auto? I don't. And it was Blazor United itself that got me to say, I'm focusing on Blazor. Because, I was not 2 years ago. I wouldn't tell you that I was ready to give talks on Blazor. But it was that demo that made me jump in. But what I really have come away with is Blazor is about render mode freedom first. And the features are second and should be applied to your situation. It's not that you should say like, oh, every app should be this, every app should be that. What are you delivering, and do you need to be client? Do you need or want to be all in the client? Do you need or want to be all in the server? Do you need or want the flexibility to be both? And it's a consideration. It's not just don't reach for the tool.
Yeah. I mean, turning it on is awesome, but there's the thought process of what you want and balancing all that out.
Right. So a little .NET Aspire update for myself. I think I can share this without I mean, look, I can't talk about specifics about what goes on at work, right? Because it's
Sure.
somebody owns the work that's done there, but I am trying to apply it to a project at work, and it's a little bit of a for funsies, but not really.
Okay.
It came out of a real developer need. There's a developer on the team who all of a sudden can't get the multiple projects in a solution to fire up and debug at the same time. And I'm telling you, it's one of those things. If you've been with Visual Studio for a long time, actually, let's be honest, if you've been developing for a long time, this really isn't a Visual Studio thing. I
Yeah.
remember having these issues with Turbo Pascal, frankly. Is the weirdness that you just one day your app just doesn't build anymore, or the tool just doesn't work anymore, and you scratch your head and you don't know why, and maybe you even resort to reinstalling the editor or the tool or the compiler or who knows, whatever.
Okay.
So it really felt like that to them, where they just said, this all worked fine like 10 minutes ago, and now when I click the run button, nothing happens. And I've been wanting to blame, in this particular case, I've been wanting to blame what I can only call site exhaustion in IIS Express.
Okay.
Where if you use Visual Studio, there's, .NET's, you can run it on IIS, which means it'll run in the IIS Express debugging model that's built into Visual Studio and has been with us for a very long time now, well over 10, I want to say even 15 years. Gosh, maybe even longer. Or it can run independently in Kestrel and debug out of there. And I will admit, I made the switch to Kestrel a while ago. But a lot of developers, but a lot of developers don't.
Right.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to blame that, because every time in IIS Express, every time you go and bring some app down and it's a web app, it actually goes and registers in the application host config. And I believe that slowly but surely that thing just begins to build up with a bunch of ports taken, and then maybe there's a conflict, and so now it can't connect to the server anymore, and you get this cryptic error and you don't know what's wrong. So I watched him struggle with this and said to myself, what if I could get this working through Aspire? Right, because then it goes away. And what was interesting about that is it actually, again, we talked a little bit about trying to do something yourself opens your eyes a little.
Mm-hmm.
So Aspire, I believe I'm correct in saying this, it has a dependency on a container runtime.
Either Docker or Podman, I think, are the two that are default.
And I bet you I read over that 5 times. But now that I'm trying to do this on a machine that didn't have a container runtime, it jumps out at you, hits you in the face. Bam, gotta have a container runtime. So that's leading me to give Podman a try for no other reason than to bring maybe to this audience, like maybe you have the option. Docker Desktop could work, or just Docker could work, or Podman could work. And then, because we like to try all the different things and then say, hey, here's how you set them up.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
So, because when we did there's a dependency for Docker, and maybe I haven't dug into this deep enough. But when we did that first one, where we took the orchestration piece and basically took our HelloDallE, took that original application and said, hey, let's create the app host, let's create the service discovery bit. Docker never really came into play, if I recall right.
I don't know. I wasn't paying enough attention. I wasn't paying enough attention when we ran it. Like maybe Docker Desktop was firing. So that would be interesting to revisit if the solution is still sitting around. Like, did it just fire it up or not? I don't remember. So, that's part of this, right? Is part of what we do is say, part of what I like to do on this show, and I think we both do, is to really dig in and get under the covers to the point, not to the absurd, but to just so that as a developer, less magic and more, I know what's happening. Okay, cool. And so I don't strictly know that answer, that when we did the sample, I'm not saying that it's mysterious. I just think, I don't remember if we looked to see if a container spun up for the web app.
Yeah. So if you want, we can switch over because I still have that project.
Okay.
This was pre-GA,
Right.
and so it's running inside of Visual Studio Preview.
Right.
And it was the latest bits at the time we did this because there was just a preview update to these. So,
Oh, whoops. I don't want that logo. And then I still have to add this. So there we go. Yes, that's right. We did this. And it does say container starting for Redis, but
interesting. We added that after.
Okay.
Because when you first do the steps, it's basically, and this is an Aspire. Maybe this is the wrong one. Hang on. Oh, my Windows. All right, there we go. Right. So there was. Oh, this is different. This is just a note of the. All right. This might be something else we tried. So, because there isn't a different.
Did I do it here? I don't think I did.
I don't think you did. I think it was just me.
I was gonna say, wow, what's going on that I can't even remember from day to day anymore.
There is one other one I can try. So let me, because I think what happened was there's a, I was doing this on the show to understand it, and then I did it for a customer, and I think that's what Aspire 2 is. So let's go back to here, and it's probably the eShop Lite solution, because that's what was in that demo, was those eShop Lite pieces.
Yep. And I think the part that I was happy with was that you bring eShop Lite down and it didn't work. And in fact, we had trouble figuring out all of the places to update, but yet when we ran it in Aspire, it fired up and it was like, oh, okay, cool.
So all spot on there. And what I'm showing here is this is Docker. Yeah. I'm only focused on running containers, and I don't have any running right now.
Oops.
That Redis one that was there was the one for the Aspire 2 one that spun up. So let's close that down. Let's do this.
Yep. So we had a show a little while back where we brought the eShop Lite project down and wired up the Aspire stuff. And what was interesting about it was, in fact, that we could not get it working outside of Aspire. I'm not sure that we tried that hard, but there were app settings to change.
Yeah.
And so instead, when we switched over to the Aspire model, where you let service discovery take over, and then it just fired up, and it was like, oh, well, that's kind of nice. There's a nice sales pitch for the whole idea of getting out of that business. So yeah, we have the products project and the store project, an API project, and a website.
Yep, all right there. So they're project types, not container types. And if we go to, we can launch this. We got our home, we got our products, and everything shows up.
Right. Yes.
Which is great. So in this, since we don't have
Docker,
any,
no containers,
because we don't have any other services.
Okay.
That we're running, right? It's just our projects.
Okay.
And I think that may be where that could be as we start to dive into, if it's okay to, or if it makes sense to switch gears. And say, okay, this is what we were working on previously. So this is the HelloDallE app that we built, and we Aspirified the application by including the Aspire project, and got our app host. We didn't do any service discovery, and the reason we decided not to go down that path is because we don't have a separate project for APIs. All of the calls to APIs or calls to services in Azure, so it all happened inside of our HelloDallE project, essentially. And since this is, I think it's so. No, it's not server side. It's Blazor server project, so it's okay for that application to call the APIs from where it is, as opposed to worrying about things being on somebody's client and doing it. So
right,
all good there. if we go ahead and do this, and maybe what we'll do is, because I don't have any of the settings things open, let's go to our program CS. Let's go to this one here. So this is the one for the web, for the app host. So this is the one that will run kind of as a shell over top of our project. And then this one is the one for this is the one for the actual project web application itself.
Right.
So we're going to start our app host. Let's do that. And we got a couple of breakpoints in there because we think our issue had something to do with what it was looking for when it came to the secret setting.
Storage, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll check over here, right? So we also have this. We don't have any containers running. See that we get. Oh, wow. It took us all the way into here. Storage extensions.
Yeah. Look at that. And
this is for evaluation purposes only. Huh. Interesting. Okay. Name is storage and then null. Down to here. Is this too deep? Like, should we be skirting above this at this point?
Well, did you enable source link or?
No.
I'll admit. So there are a lot of features that come together that I like when they come together, but I sometimes get the naming wrong, and I'm in this bad place where this happens a lot with features that are maybe in your IDE or on your computer, is you get it set up, you fight to get it set up, and now someone else asks you, how do I set it up? And you go, oh man, I fought to get it set up, so I don't have a good instruction path. And I'm not trying to say this is hard. It actually wasn't, but I feel like it's a combination of enabling source servers and putting in the servers for .NET plus turning off just my code in the debugging that lets you just like step right into this stuff, which I'm a big fan of when I'm trying to figure the things out. Yeah. But it does add some latency at startup where the first time it's like, oh, well, I got to go get all the symbols. And so we've even seen it on the show. It pays to have some fast internet during that, because otherwise you can really, that's it's like a 2 cups. It's a 2 coffee break wait sometimes. But I like that feature, but for whatever reason, you're stepping right in. And I wonder, is this through NuGet source symbols? And when it talks about being evaluation, remember, we did this on Aspire previews, right?
Yeah.
Did we do this on GA? I don't remember. Maybe we didn't. Maybe it wasn't. I don't remember.
We did, because it's got the 801. This is using the GA bits.
Oh, okay. Well, then, so I don't know what that comment means. I'm going to try to avoid trying to guess what that comment meant. But here you are with it's trying to add a lifecycle hook, which I guess is part of. Man, I don't even know what this is part of. But it appears to be part of Aspire, where they have a distributed application lifecycle hook. Okay.
Which kind of makes sense, because that's
it's not blowing up yet.
It's not.
But then again, we also are. Last time we just rammed over this part of the code.
Yep.
I wonder what the configuration is, but
yeah.
In any case,
well, we should be able to see that by going through the configuration.
I'm a little concerned that we might accidentally see some of the keys that you're trying to prevent, but I don't know that.
Yeah,
because we did use secrets.json too, and we went off screen for Rich to be able to do this. Oh, is it trying to provision?
That's what it looks like, right?
Yeah,
it's trying to provision a storage account.
Huh.
Find storage v2. Wow.
Let me see if I can find something in the Azure storage component. So the Azure storage component is used to register a blob service client in the DI container for connecting to Azure Blob Storage. Okay, fine. And then also registers or enables health checks, logging, and telemetry, which is part of the. But I'm just curious. I wanted to see what it says here. So you can use a connection string, the service URI. The recommended approach is to use a service URI. Alternatively, an Azure storage connection string can be used. I don't know which one you did. I guess
we did connection string.
Okay.
I mean, we can go the other route and do the service URI part. I mean,
I can't tell you why when it says recommended.
Well, because you don't because then you won't have the
okay.
key.
Yeah. Right. The recommended approach is to use the service URI, which works with the Azure Storage Blob settings credential property to establish a connection. If no credential is configured, the default Azure credential is used. Fine. But by using the connection string, you theoretically bypassed that.
Yes. And maybe that's something to explore. You're getting that from this one.
I'm looking at the docs. Yeah.
The
in components under Azure Blob storage, because I figured that's what we were setting up here.
Yep.
And then use configuration providers. They do say, what about this section after this? Right after this, you're really close. They use configuration providers. Did we do this using the Aspire Azure Storage Blob section?
So that's interesting. So is that part of it's in the app settings JSON?
Sure, but it could go in secrets, although I don't know that it has to, because it doesn't look like a secret. It wants an app ID, which I don't know. I don't know what that is. Unfortunately, it just says my app, so I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if you just have to put something in there.
Right.
I don't think that was the error you were getting. Like when you stepped through, or are you still stuck on a breakpoint?
I'm still on a breakpoint, but it's not. So if I kind of paused here. So let's just do F10. Interesting. So
is it just that we had to wait a couple of days? And I'm joking when I say that, and run it again, and then we're going to have a mystery on our hands?
That would be interesting. So there's our blobs that we created. Application builder. All the service and 2 resources.
There could be something else too, though, because I'm reading down the rest of this page and wondering if we didn't finish the whole job. I'm just not sure.
Okay. Maybe that's what we do as well, as maybe take a bit of a look.
Yeah. Although maybe not. Going back to the top of that section, it's the configuration section. And if I strip away the text that you read, the top of the thing says the Azure Blob Storage component provides multiple options to configure the Blob Service client. And now if I just read the headings, use a connection string, service URI, connection string, which that's weird. That's the same thing again. Oh, I get it. I understand. Or use configuration providers. And so I think these might be, or use inline delegates. So I wonder if these are ors. But I'm really interested to see what happens on your end here.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just taking a quick pause because it did come up with a bunch of. I don't see anything that is publicly. Okay, I just wanted to do a quick check.
Yeah, no,
I saw some things that look like keys, but they're internal, right? It's app host browser token, app host directory.
Because unlike some other things where I've leaked OpenAI keys,
this
is like, you're gonna have to tear down your whole entire Azure OpenAI Studio deployment, right? I imagine.
I should just be able to, say generate a new key and then.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that's not. Yeah, okay. That you generate keys there. I forgot about that.
But none of that was. And I should have stopped that. Why does it give me this?
I don't know. We're not looking. Do you want me to come back to your screen?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Let's do that. That is interesting. I don't even know what that is.
That's the eShop lights, not that one. For that. Let's close all those. Who wants this? That is interesting. So it should be this.
Oh, I see. That's the dashboard trying to fire up, I guess.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. You're not blocked. You're not in a breakpoint right
I'm not
now.
in a breakpoint, no.
No. So you're either running and you can log into the dashboard and or the app, because we haven't even tried running the app. Although that doesn't seem to be, that seems to be
Doesn't
fighting
seem
you.
to want to do it. Nope. All right, let's turn off the breakpoint and just let it run through, because maybe we're.
Yep.
Have another one down here.
That's interesting that your startup, it's almost like now when you go back to the console, the Kestrel console, this could be something that could happen to folks. Has that token changed?
No, it's still the same.
No, but it's not firing it up.
Yeah.
Okay. That's weird.
Let's do this. Come back to us two for a second, or if you want to show something, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read. This is my dev box, as you can see from the little window up here.
Right.
And I've been playing around with Hibernate, and maybe that is what is causing a bit of an issue here. So let's do a restart. I'll take a few seconds. It's not that. It's kind of a beefy machine, so it should be quick. That has ended.
Yeah, and I was talking about how, in case folks are wondering, in the .NET Aspire documentation, there's a component section and this list of components. And what I've done is I've picked this Azure one, Azure Blob Storage, so that we could read through what it says we need to do. And it isn't really asking like there's a ton to do. So it's interesting when I look through this list, because I think at the core, I can understand, at its core, I can understand the orchestration of an application where, in order to kind of be a developer on it, so to speak, I am running on containerized things, whether that's my own application, my own website, my own API, or perhaps like you've shown in your other example, Redis Cache. I think many times as a developer, now look, a lot of developers too, and you know, let us know in the comments if you can. Don't get in trouble at work. But I think it's also fair to just have this as an open conversation. This doesn't have to be like, tell us exactly what you're doing at your current job, but an open conversation about how when you're at work and you have to, and you just want to develop day to day, you just want to write a line of code, and then you want to work on that code. How much are you connecting to shared environments that maybe more members of your team are you using the same database? Are you using the same Redis cache? Are you using the same, you're working on the website, and so you've got something in your app settings that connects to an API. Your team owns both of them, but you deploy out to the API so that you can work on the website, or you deploy out to the website so that you can work on the API. And then you get into these funny conversations of like, hey, hey Joe, did you push out a API? He says, oh yeah, I'm working on something. Oh man, my website blew up, you know. And I think that's what Aspire's all about in one respect, is not just to solve that problem, but to solve all of these painful issues the moment you decide that your app is composed of multiple things. And I know we talk a ton about like loose coupling, but at some point, even the most loosely coupled application can't start up without something. You can only mock so long and so much.
Yeah.
And to be like, for example, in your application, the HelloDallE app, when I tried bringing it down and running it, the first thing I ran into is the app very gracefully shows the spinning circle of patience when it's trying to go out and get the question categories. And I don't have any of those deployments, or I don't have the keys that you have. And so it just spun like, I'm working on it. It's cool. And then I knew nothing was ever going to happen. So I just said, like, yeah, the F5 ability isn't here in this app, right?
Not completely, no.
Yeah.
But I think if we had those components for Aspire, I think it would get us that much closer to being that, which is part of the goal.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Right. It's definitely thinking about the day-to-day developer livelihood. But I look at these components in here. I think it's interesting. There is Azure has OpenAI. It has search document, blob storage, Cosmos, Event Hubs, Key Vault. There's a MongoDB component, Apache Kafka. That sounds very interesting. MySQL, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, which has become so popular. Even PostgreSQL EF Core. I wonder what that even means. This article, you learn how to use the Aspire PostgreSQL Entity Framework core component. So you would register a DB context to connect to a PostgreSQL database, but that's an alternative to the one where you don't do that, I suppose. Oh, I see, an NBG SQL data source. Okay, so that's cool.
That is pretty neat.
Yeah, so 2 ways to deal with that: SQL Server with EF Core, SQL Server without, and MySQL does not. Let's see, just doesn't seem to MySQL data source, and that's it. So I just wonder how much this is going to continue to grow, just both in the documentation, but also third party.
Yeah, and I think that is certainly where the vision is, that will continue to do just that, to continue to grow.
Right.
And more and more components get added to it, more and more services that are maybe not necessarily in the Azure space per se, but
all right, so where are we at?
Let me, I'm looking,
you were
at your
looking
screen.
some stuff up that might
you do a share screen here, do this.
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember this.
So this is what we got to, and I think the thing we need to kind of focus on is I'm probably not running it on my
it does say, I mean, we're seeing the dashboard.
Oh yeah, but I can't do.
Oh, zoom it. Yes.
All right, I can do this and say we got this and this, and I think we got to figure out why it thinks we need subscription configuration, and maybe it's that path we were heading down with the configuration or the connection string, and that maybe we pivot and look to essentially a URI for that as an alternative.
Right.
So let's bring up another page here. Let's do this. Let's go.
I'm also trying to see what can I find here, and I have found in the .NET Aspire repo an issue adding Aspire Azure Messaging Service Bus, not the same one.
Okay.
F5 running shows missing subscription configuration under the console log. So,
do you want to drop that link and we can show it?
Yeah,
switch to you, one or the other.
Possibly not related at all, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But at the same, that's not the one that I wanted. Interesting. It's probably because I have to present again. At least I think so. I could be wrong. Why? I wonder if when I presented, did I pick? Oh, I accidentally picked a tab instead of the whole window, which is fine. Whatever. So I haven't, now this is open, but and I'm zooming past this just to see here. Test local Azure provisioning using an existing Azure resource. For number 2, the only call in the app host, if any, is add connection strings. See. Okay, that's interesting. I love how David Fowler. Not exactly your same issue here, but
the same output error.
Yeah, that's why I wondered.
But it sounds like he was trying to use a connection, or they were trying to use a connection string.
Right. But see, the thing about one of the difference between these two is storage. Like you said, it looked like storage was trying to do something interesting. I don't know. Azure Blob storage. And now obviously it wants to take you to the documentation, but I was hoping. Yeah, a lot of these are just, I think, not quite there. Because this is, Azure storage components. And of course, these are this doesn't really have anything to do with, this is about using Azure storage in general.
Yeah.
Doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing.
So there's another, we could pivot a little bit. We got 34, it's 34. We've got about 20 some minutes left before top of the hour. Here's the thought. What if we pivot away from the HelloDallE app? And we kind of do what we did 2 shows ago, which was, let's just do the tutorial. And there's a connect to storage tutorial, which I think would give us all the pieces. And then if we can get that to work, then we should be able to maybe kind of back engineer what was wrong with ours.
Okay.
Sound like a plan?
Yeah, and it looks like you have the option here. You can either create a blob container. Oh no, that's interesting. You'll need to create a blob container and storage queue resource with, and they recommend using Azure, right? Because I wondered if they were going to say like you could do that, or
up at the top there are different options for.
Yeah, there are. You're right, because you could also provision the resources. Okay, it sounds like that wasn't a requirement.
But I mean, if I guess I'm a little confused. So if we do the Azure right, that would be a Docker container?
Not necessarily. It's been a little while since I've played with Azure right. I remember working with it though, which is just not the Azure storage emulator, which a lot of people may still have on their machines and so on. Okay. Well, you know what? Like you said, I don't necessarily know that we could, when we get to this part with Azure, right, we could pivot and use what's installed, what we set up in the portal, and see what happens.
Yeah, because we've got those options at the top for choosing the storage mechanism.
Yep.
So.
Oh, in fact, you're right. I didn't see, I got stuck on that, where we could even go here. And now we're in the portal here, CLI. Yeah, I didn't even notice that we had.
Yeah, and what messed with me is that none of them were Docker. So it's like,
yeah.
And you scroll down, and you look at the prerequisites. Well, you need Docker or Podman. So there's that.
Okay, cool. All right,
let's try it. You should be able to see my screen, right? Yep.
Yep.
All right. So first thing we got to do is make a local copy of this.
Yeah, so they have a completed sample, .NET Aspire Connect Storage.
Oh, they gave me the whole command. That was nice.
I'm beginning to wonder if we are going to notice right away, like as we're creating the storage account, we add your user account that you're logged into Visual Studio with as an assign it in a role with the role-based access security. I wonder. Okay, so they've given us a solution, and the solution has apparently you can AZD up to automate the provisioning too, if you want to try that.
I think that would be worth it.
Okay.
Go back to this, do developer CLI.
Which we've done a little bit on the show, which is cool.
Yes, we certainly have. What I need to do though is I need to probably going to create some kind of a it's probably going to need to create its own resource group, and it's probably going to need something that is permission related, and I need to be an owner to do that. So I'm just going to pim real quick. And what that does is that takes my account from being just a normal contributor account to being an account that is an owner account, so that I can change permissions. All right, that's happening in the background. I just won't sign into anything until that is done. And all right, so set up the Azure storage resources. Oh, so that's my next step, is to auth.
Yep.
I'm not going to try and update it. I don't think that will make.
Oh, haha. You can still try it. What's the worst thing that happens?
Run it somewhere else. Let's see. Wow, that was quick.
Oh, okay. Oh, look at that.
And in the meantime, my login, my authentication completed. So, in case I don't know what's going to show me, let's do that. Yep. So, multi-factor authentication happening. Cool. Authentication complete. I can now close the browser. We can come back to me. Then we want to run that. What we're doing is we're doing the template, .NET Aspire content storage.
Now, is that also going to clone it? Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
I think because it's AZD init, it's also trying to pull the code down, right?
Yeah, which I shouldn't need to do because I already have the
No, and
code.
it's asking you, do you want to overwrite them or just keep your files?
Keep them unchanged. Enter a new environment. So this is yes. Oh. Success. The project initialized. So now we can do the next step, which is AZD up. Now that we've got the right permissions and the project there. This will take a few minutes because it's going out to, oh, well, yep, that's the subscription. Go for it. Yeah, ECOS 2, that's fine.
Okay, so they have, after this completes, you can run the .NET sample app to experiment with the app or build the sample app step by step, connecting it to the Azure resources provisioned by AZD. So interesting. Okay. Because what is not in the template is the .NET Aspire app host service defaults. Those things aren't in there, it looks like. And it looks like their approach is to create a new solution in this example, which is not required. You can add the project to your existing solution. I have kicked around the idea because I've noticed most of the samples and templates have you add the Aspire stuff like right into your solution, which maybe is a fine practice. Like I don't not completely saying, but I wondered like, should I experiment with it being its own solution? I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the idea is that it's sitting there so that you can run the distributed app anytime and get to work as a developer. So anyways.
So you think we should start here?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm going to let that continue to prove oh.
Oh, that's funny. Now, I don't know if you didn't have one or if that's dumb luck.
It's dumb luck.
Okay, because I was going to say it could either be the script trying to do that twice or that you actually already did have a storage account called Aspire Storage. No? Okay.
So we can do code, right? Which will open this folder up in here. And then we go to the infra, to the core, storage. It's kind of parameter in the name. Probably comes in. Oh, wow. That's so it wasn't even the it's funny because it wasn't even the my my folder name. It actually is hard coded in here. Well, I know that's not out there. I don't know how many of these other things we're going to run into, but at least we can get past that. Okay. Going to drop in the same thing. All right. So we'll let that run. And we'll go back to here in our Visual Studio project, which is the Aspire storage.
Well, here in this particular, we're creating a whole solution in this case. Like we're going to add these components back in. And I think maybe partially they're doing that to leave the sample intact so that like, oh, you want to go run the sample, fine.
Right. But if you don't, here's the other bits to kind of do the same, to take advantage of the Aspire stuff. Okay. Do that. This one. We'll do. Getting close here.
And it is the .NET Aspire Starter application.
Okay.
So this is a template where you get the whole solution. You're starting from the beginning, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
But
For
as
the
you'll
front
see,
end,
that
back
doesn't mean
end.
you don't have to start writing the code here. You can bring in existing. We're going to see you can bring in existing projects.
So let's do that. That's next.
They say on configure your new project screen,
Yep.
enter a solution name. They say Aspire Storage, which of course we've been using a lot.
All right. Fire app 3, creating a new folder. That's fine.
They say you do not need use Redis.
Okay. I guess that's it. Well,
all right. And that gets you this, if you use this template, that gets you this base project, which I think is going to have, my guess is going to have 2 projects in it already. It should have the app host and the service defaults.
mm-hmm. Which we can look at. Let's see.
Oh, they also dropped in a web and an API service. Okay, so this is just in the template then.
Yep.
Okay, right. That's not super important. So
in Solution Explorer, right click on the top level, Aspire Storage.
Yeah, because we're going to add a new project.
Oh.
We're going to add a worker service project. So this is just now, this has nothing to do with Aspire. This is just building a .NET worker service.
Oh, make sure you get the C# one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, but there is a checkbox that you're going to pick along the way. They're saying to call this Aspire Storage.worker service, which yours is Aspire App 3. So maybe that's what you want. I don't know. It probably doesn't matter that much. At least I'd like to believe it doesn't matter that much. .worker service.
Just keeps the namespaces all in sync.
Right. And make sure that you're on .NET 8, which you are. And then, and they have already checked enlist in .NET Aspire orchestration.
Oh, cool.
And really what this does is it adds the project to your solution and automatically updates the app host project with a line of code that adds this. So they go ahead and add the project.
Okay.
To Aspire's app host.
So doing all of the dependencies and stuff like we've seen before, right?
Right. Yep.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's just kind of learning what to call these things, right? Because you watch the demo. So this is the app host project. It's the distributed app that we can run and debug. So program CS should have gotten that little piece there. Oh, that seemed to work. That's good.
Yep. So we changed it. We got a resource group, and we've got our storage account appropriately created. So that's all awesome.
Okay. We have the worker service.
Yep.
The app host program CS should have that single line of code that got thrown in there for us.
And that's in the app host project.
Yeah.
There's that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
We're looking good there.
And then add the Aspire components to the Blazor app. So that means
this one.
You can. They're showing you how to do it in the CLI, but it looks to me that you could even copy in those package references just below that. That should be the exact same thing.
Oh, gotcha.
Just basically that item group there with the package references. I think you could copy it in and you don't have to. It'll just pick it up once you hit the save button. So in the documentation, it's, there you go. Maybe you can put it in the same thing. I don't know. It might be fine.
Oh, a separate. Yeah. Why would you put a separate item group?
And I think as soon as you hit save in the lower left-hand corner, we're going to see it say restoring packages. Yep. Oh, wow.
It did for a brief second. Right. Yep.
Cool. Then add the components to the app. So we have to add Azure Blob Client and Azure Q Client to the program CS of this Blazor project.
us down to here.
Here's where we're going to need connection strings. So we may have to switch out to a configuration-based thing.
Oh, okay.
So they're saying that after the creation of the builder, but before add service defaults. So maybe like line 5.
Okay. Okay.
And we are...
Oh, so we wanted it's what we did before with the builder dot
Azure
Blob
Blob
client.
client and Azure Q client.
Then it wants a connection string name inside of this.
What? Oh no, I guess it does need both. That makes sense. That makes sense. The website needs blob and Q, and then the worker service needs Q. That makes sense.
We've got to pop those into secrets at some point.
Yep.
Wow. Taking a while.
Now, after you've done that, you need to go to the
service.
worker service, and we're going to add just the Q package, which makes sense. It's going to pick up something off the Q.
Oh, so in a project file. There we go. And it is that same. Just the Q.
Yeah.
You get cool. Okay. And then we go to the program CS for that.
Yep. Same spot between add service defaults. So add service defaults is the thing that we have to remember in our head, that's Aspire related. It would be in fact, I already have. It would be very easy to just read right past that and be like, oh, add service defaults, whatever those are.
Yeah.
But that's the Aspire related stuff. So you need to get your component registration in before that.
Okay.
Adding the Azure client with whatever name you used over in the website. So that those are consistent.
Your client.
Okay.
Client. That's fun. And now it's a matter of creating
There's a form that we need.
Yeah, which should be in the Blazor component, right?
Mm-hmm. They completely replaced home.razor, which is nice because we don't have to worry about what's in there. We can just blow it away.
Yep. Well,
they replaced the whole thing. And it looks like this is a simple ticket form. So it probably creates a blob. In fact, I'm looking at the code right now. Gets the data, uploads to blob storage, sends a message to the queue, and calls it a day.
Nice. So. Nice and simple.
Yeah.
Okay. Got that there. And then we update the app host.
Right. So we've created a form that's going to do that for us. The app host needs Aspire hosting Azure storage, which we noticed that last time is there's a subtle difference in the project references. The app host uses a different package. And what it's really doing is that package is adding, I think, probably all the extension methods and all the supported code you need so that you can add this to the iDistributed application builder.
Yes. Cool.
Now, I see a little bug in this document. So here's another document that I need to get in there and see about, because when you update the app host in this particular section, I'm seeing replace the contents of the program CS file. Oh, you're doing this right now. You're doing Aspire hosting Azure.storage.
Yeah. Oh, I guess. Why did that not? I thought we added it through here. Oh, I'm sorry. That's app host, not app host storage. Browse. Sorry, I'm in the wrong space. Cool. Sorry, I missed that one.
Okay. And then in your CS proj, I suppose we can get rid of that other one, right? Because you don't need the Aspire app hosting app host, I don't think, that you accidentally added, perhaps. I don't remember. I wasn't exactly watching. But in the app host CS proj, you were just in it. It's the tab all the way on the left in Visual Studio.
There we go.
No, that's not it. That's the
That's the
all
app
the way on
host
the
one.
all the way on the left. You have the CS proj file open.
Oh, yes.
All
one.
the way on the left. And I don't know. Did you add the Aspire hosting app host, or was that
Via
already there?
this.
That was.
And so I did the
Okay.
NuGet package that way.
All right. Okay, that's fine. So here's the interesting part, right? Read the next line in the documentation. Replace the contents of the program CS file with the following code.
Oh no!
But this is just a bug. So there's something I'd like to see if I can get a pull request in.
Okay.
If I just click to a different tab, the Azure Write emulator, the code is there.
Oh really?
So I just feel like it's a simple cut and paste bug.
Okay. Where is that coming from?
So go all to the top of the documentation and pick a different storage mechanism.
Oh.
And then scroll back down, and there it is.
It's just on the default on the developer CLI.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
That's fixable.
Process the items in the queue. It's that one?
No, above it.
Above that. Sorry, now I got
Yeah.
it. Yep, I was in the wrong spot. So
I
this is
think the
replace
code
contents.
should be the same. I don't feel like the fact that you used a method or another should change it. But some interesting things here. They use different terms for blob connection, queue connection.
Mm-hmm.
They may have used different terms for API service web frontend. I don't think we had touched that stuff yet.
Yeah.
And notice that the project names, you have different name spacing for like Aspire 3. And so I think all you have to do is change that. I'd like to believe that that's all you have to do here. Yeah. So that's the API service. The other one is the web, storage web. Yeah, or web. Yeah, it's fine. I didn't mean to say that. And then the other one's the worker service. So I feel like you either, it's one or the other. In some of the other code you've written,
Mm-hmm.
as long as we're consistent with the names of the add blobs and add queues, because here it says blob connection, queue connection, but I think in other code, it might have been a different string.
Yep.
And I think the last thing I might do is just take a quick peek in the service defaults project and look at those extensions and see if we're all matched up. Now I understand why they were so particular about even the solution name, right? I get why they were so particular, but you have a service defaults project. I wonder if we can tell by looking in the extension CS. So the service defaults project is smack in the middle. And then there's an extension CS. I wonder if we can tell looking in here. We might not be able to.
What are we looking for?
I'm looking for those those. I don't think we're going to. I'm trying to figure out. Okay. I guess it doesn't matter. I guess I'm wrong when I think about it. The only thing I would find in here are the custom types that they made, projects dot aspire app 3. I'm not going to find your strings. That's going to be matched up later. So, let's see the preceding code. Here's the one thing you've got to get out of there, though.
What's that?
In that code is going to run the emulator.
Okay.
Because we're in the development environment. So I feel like we just don't even we want to comment that out, right? We want to use the real storage mechanisms. Otherwise, it's going to fire up your emulator, which I'm not 100%. If you're set up, great. But if you're not, I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, I don't think I have the prerequisites that I need to have for the Azure, right?
Right.
Checking real quick, but I don't know. Maybe.
Then they say before the worker service can process messages. Well, see, here's the thing is that we copied the code from the Azure Write sample, right?
True.
Right. So now let me look at the Azure portal sample. Maybe that was an important thing is that if I click one more over and look at the Azure portal sample, I'm looking for differences. And the only difference I can see is they just remove that code from line 19 to 22. So they don't use the storage emulator because we were using the portal to create these actual services, which is what we were trying to do in the Azure Developer CLI. It's just that the documentation has a bug here.
Yep.
So fix that. And I feel like you just get rid of that. And I think,
that looks like it's everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. So I feel like we got to configure the connection strings. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So,
and there's the processing the items in the queue, but I guess we don't need to worry about that.
Right.
Okay.
So the last bit that they have here is configuring the connection strings, which they say to throw in an app settings development JSON file, but I feel like you could put them.
They could be in the secrets.
Man, now I'm wondering about the whole secrets thing. Is that part of our issue? But
so Aspire storage. Which one? So
Aspire storage.
I mean,
is the
API service
host.
Oh, the host.
I'm sorry. It's the I think this is a little buggy. If you ask me, it's the website, because the website's the one where in Program CS we added both types. We added both a blob connection and a queue connection.
Yeah. So I agree. It should be here in
They're saying you can drop it in there, which I suppose you could do as long as you close it. But we need your
drop it in here, right?
So that's what the tutorial's doing. I'm curious about the secrets file, but I suppose if we just want to see it work, we still need the connection strings for your blob and queue connection.
Yeah. All right, hang on, because they're saying.
So I don't know. I mean, we can't. I don't know where that is.
You can't see. Yeah.
Yeah. We're right now. We're just seeing your Visual Studio, just in case you're wondering.
Yeah. Generate SaaS. Like, I guess when you look at the keys, sorry, when you look at the access keys, and we are running over. Let me know if you still got if you got a hard stop at some point.
Mhm.
Right. So if I look at access keys, it's just keys for the storage account. They don't make a distinction between um, they don't make a distinction between the account itself and the individual blob. I mean, I get it. It's better separation of um, security, right? I only have the rights to the things that I have rights to or need to have rights to. I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to take the connection string and I'm going to add it here, but add it so that it is so that it's done twice, but called the same thing. So I guess what I'm getting at is I'm getting this. Down here, there will be.
So I think in this project, they're saying there isn't the security risks of some of the other project because you're just supplying the location and your specific Visual Studio user has been granted role-based access control to it. So it's not like the other times that we've tried to do stuff like this and we're like, oh, there's secrets in this connection string. They're just basically saying, just point me right to the storage account and I'm good.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. So this isn't a problem then because this is this.
Right. And then the storage account name .blob.core.windows.net. So yeah, that's an interesting distinction, is that there are many ways to connect to these resources. Sometimes the credential is right in the string.
Oh,
Sometimes in this case, it's not.
it's me.
So it's like, how would it ever work? Well, because you're in Visual Studio and this particular user has been granted access, and hopefully that's all set up correctly. I guess the bicep stuff did it. And the reason why I say I guess the bicep stuff did it is because when I look at the same documentation in some of the other tabs, I think you go through assigning the RBAC roles.
Yep.
But
so
in the Azure Developer CLI, they say AZD up. Okay, you're good.
well, that's you. In order to run AZD up, you have to AZD off
Yeah.
login first. So.
Right. So we are trusting okay, so once those are in, then you have to take the Q one and take that one over to the worker services app settings.
But we didn't do, I mean, we can, but we did not. Well, we need it there because we wired it up. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, right.
Even though we didn't give it the, what do we call it? We didn't give it the code to know how to pull things out of the queue. Right. We skipped over that.
Oh, you know what? Another bug in this documentation, because that code bit isn't there. All right. So it looks like there is the code to do it isn't in the Azure Developer CLI tab. It's just not there.
Oh.
So I have to switch to another tab and there, yeah, you're right. Process the items in the queue, update the worker CS class and replace it. So that's different.
So I'm, yeah. Have that. So we'll copy this, and this is the worker service, program CS. Beauty. Not liking that. Program does not contain a static main method suitable for an entry point.
So what was copied in here?
That was the process the items in the queue. Oh, I'm sorry. I updated the wrong thing.
Okay.
Update the
Worker CS.
yeah. I updated the program CS. That was my bad.
Okay. Now the namespacing won't be right.
Nope. Good catch.
I don't remember if we dealt with that on the website. I don't think we had to because it was a Blazor component.
Yep.
And let me think here. I don't think you have to worry about anything else. It doesn't look like it. So
So it's saying interesting. Oh. I don't know where I changed that one. Hang on. Yeah, that.
So if you revert what's in worker CS,
Yeah.
go revert what you did in worker. I'm sorry. Yeah, worker CS.
It's funny. The
You
one time
control
I,
Z that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, or can you not? Can you go back? See how it was called worker, and it derives from background service, but the code that you pasted in, they changed it to worker service.
Oh, so it is. It does need to be worker service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I also okay.
Gotcha. Okay. I was thinking it was something that we needed to kind of wire up in the
I kind of
program
think of that as a little bit of a bug in the docs too, because somebody following step by step is going to be like, well, now what?
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine a lot of people will figure this out,
Mhm.
but to me, a little frustrating. So
Cool.
you have to get rid of whatever's on line one, that mess. I have no idea what that's about. Oh. So, go back to the worker. I bet you it's a namespace. No, yeah, it's a Spire 3 app, right? Or
Yeah.
Spire app 3. Yeah, okay. I think you're good there. Now, I guess you don't even need the using. So now they're claiming the connection changer's configured. They're claiming you can run it.
All right, let's just do this. Build succeeded. Let's let it. All right, let's go.
So I'm trying to think about what some of the differences were, and I just don't know if that exception is telling us see missing subscription information. So I was going to say I don't know if it's not working anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going to say if this works, then I don't know what it is about the other process, but it doesn't matter. So
it doesn't. Yeah. I mean, so
and I can't figure out if it's trying to start, like what it's trying to do. It said failed to start. Why? Oh, probably because of the missing subscription information, I guess.
I would say. I mean, that's probably the root of it all. Fail to apply configuration value. Yeah, it actually, but the storage is already up there. Why is it trying to reprovision something that already exists? Hmm. So I feel like we're kind of, while we went through that whole storage example, we're running into that same issue in how we're
Yeah.
doing this. And I'm wondering if what you kind of found at the beginning potentially around different configuration or configuration URI versus configuration string, is that a better way to go? Although I think technically that's what the URI is, kind of what we already have by doing um, this one. And just basically saying, hey, it's a blob client, and this is the URI to this service up in Azure. And if you do that, it doesn't matter what region it got deployed to or whatever. I can, essentially find it and use my credentials to get there. It's interesting. So aside from a couple of the areas that we ran in the documentation around some missing documentation, we definitely are running into some kind of a problem when it comes to the storage account.
Right. And I think it's weird that it says it's provisioning, but then
Yeah,
you go through this whole thing to provision it first. I don't know why.
exactly. And maybe it's the code that we grabbed off. Well, no, because that shouldn't matter. Okay.
Yeah. I'm looking through the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what we jumped over, but I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think we're tracking pretty good together as far as what we needed to put in place.
All right. Well, unfortunately,
Yep.
I do have stand up in a few minutes, so I have to
Oh.
get moving.
Right. Wow. It's almost bottom of the 9:30.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. We definitely want to do. I will take now. I'm in this headspace. I want to kind of figure out what's going on behind the scenes. So I may post something later if we get it figured out. Not a video, maybe just a comment to the video here. And then I think maybe next week, we're gonna try and do a couple days early in the week.
Yeah. Next week, a couple days, a little bit early, I think, are available, and there's a lot to look into. We got to figure out, I think, what the show will be. So definitely, if there are things you want, we've got a pretty good list going.
Right.
I know folks are definitely interested in the Blazor authentication, and we had gotten a foundation going for client auth from scratch, but had not yet implemented even I don't think even a username password style form, or maybe an external login, which I think we can get to. And then the last hurdle, I think, is auto, because in the interactive auto samples that come from Microsoft, they use a different persisting and revalidating authentication state provider. And so it'll be interesting to me to understand the persisting authentication state provider. I think I have pretty wired. I get what it does. It takes what the server figures out and persists it to a state provider that the client can read. Now I know who's logged in. But it's the persisting and revalidating that I'm trying to understand still myself, why the auto sample uses that, why the client sample doesn't. And is there a difference, or are they just samples and they're saying like, hey, you could use either one depending on your use case? I don't know. And if you do know, then don't hesitate to leave us a comment, because I'm trying to figure it out. So
Right.
that would be great to hear from one of you. But I definitely want to thank everybody who joined us today. And let's see, it's Friday, right? It is Friday. At least in some, I wonder, it must not be Friday in some part of the world, I guess.
We already switched to Saturday.
Yeah. So I hope that means that everybody watching, if you're watching live, that it's Friday or the weekend for you, and that you have a great weekend. And that goes for you too, Rich. Hope you have a good weekend.
Thanks. You too, Chris.
And I think we'll see all of you next time on the Dev Talk Show, which I have to figure out how to get us out of.